After over 25 years of marriage, we've learned that successful couples have great friendships, put each other first, and focus on light just as much as love. We believe marriage should be fun and easy.
Our goal is to share our journey with the hopes of helping others build strong, happy relationships. Join us as we continue to create our lives beyond I do.
We are not marriage counselors, nor are we mental health professionals. We're just simply sharing y'all how we navigated through our marriage. Now, on with the show.
Thank you for joining us again on this episode of the Beyond I Do podcast. On today's episode, we have a very special guest, Miss Sarah Itkin. She comes to us from Colorado. She is a psychic medium, an intuitive coach who also uses her mental health training to help others, correct?
That's right. I used to be a mental health therapist, and I combine those abilities together to provide readings and coaching.
Very good. So if you would tell us a little bit about you and how you got to the place of realizing that you had the ability to help others using not only that background in mental health, but also those spiritual gifts.
Sure. So like you said, I'm a psychic medium. I also am an angel channel. And I also teach intuitive development, or people might understand better, psychic development classes that I created to help people who are kind of know that there's something, that they have some abilities and there's more out there and they don't quite know what to do with it. So I have these, I would say I give readings, I do the ongoing coaching with people, and then I do my courses and teach people all the way up to becoming professional intuitive coaches or readers themselves. So my story began a long time ago when I did not know that I was psychic at all. I had no concept or awareness of that. And I knew that I wanted to help people. So my path was I went to the University of Washington, got my master's in social work, and then I grew up in upstate New York, and I worked as a mental health therapist. And I always felt like I was a round peg trying to fit into a square hole. Right. And something just felt like it was missing. Mm-hmm. And I also felt like I had a low self-esteem. I didn't really feel like I was doing that much good in the world. I also struggled with anxiety and depression, in a very intense way. And when I was in my early 20s, I started to see these little sparks of light. And my first thought was that these are angels, or they are celestial beings. And then my second thought was they're not special enough, because my self-esteem, was so low. And I thought, only holy people could see, into the spiritual realm. And I was told that there was something wrong with my eyes. And I just accepted that. I was like, of course, it's something wrong with my eyes. And then I stopped seeing them for a really long time. But, and fast forward before that, I was in college, and my best friend from high school, I had a dream that she passed away, and it was very, very, very detailed. And I called her the next day because when I woke up, I just felt like, oh my God, she's gone. I called her the next day to make sure that I could, hear her voice. I even told her that I dreamt that she died, and she ended up passing away a year and a half later. Oh. And everything in my dream, every detail came true.
Oh, wow.
So that's when I realized I was psychic. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, I was like, well, what do I do with that? Nothing. Why? What's the purpose of it? Because I didn't think that I could do anything else other than having random dreams. Mm-hmm. And so then, moving on, I'm in my 20s, I'm really seeking some spiritual support. I'm really struggling. See the angels. I'm told that there's something wrong with my eyes. And then I stopped seeing them. And then I became a therapist, and I had a dream about one of my clients, and it was, she was in a war, but she didn't tell me what happened to her. So I had a dream that these terrible atrocities were happening to me during my dream. And it was something that I shouldn't dream about unless I experience it myself. It would have been a dream that somebody would have if they had PTSD. Mm-hmm. And so I ended up seeing my client a few days later, and I was so disturbed by this dream. And she ended up telling me what happened to her when she was in this war. And then it was everything that happened to me in my dream.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, I was in my early 30s, and I recognized that there's something that needs to be done because I continued, I had some more dreams about people dying, and then I had that dream. And I knew that the universe was saying, Sarah, you've got to do something. You've got to do something. I just knew it was a call to take some action.
Were you scared?
No, I actually wasn't scared. And it was very, very synchronistic because going back to rewinding again, well, a few years earlier, a year prior, my friend Rebecca, who passed away, her sister was working with a psychic teacher. And I met her. And I was like, oh, I'd love to work with you, but, why would I want to put the money? I didn't tell her, I didn't want to spend the money, but I'm telling myself, it's like, why should I spend this money on this thing that would be just a hobby,
Right.
Because therapists don't get paid very well when you're young.
Right.
So anyway, after I had the dream, I knew exactly who to call. It was like it had been laid out for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I called my teacher. And then when I started working with her, my gifts exploded. So my psychic abilities, I learned how to do on demand. I learned how to channel angels. I learned how to become a medium. And then I had these amazing experiences with the angels so that I knew they gave me these incredible signs. Mm-hmm. We call them angel signs. And through those signs, I knew that I could connect with them. And I started to see those little sparks of light again. And I'll just give you the first entryway sign that was really amazing. I was taking notes on my computer and I was listening to the Pandora station. Mm-hmm. And I was listening to the classical station. And then I saw angels. I saw the sparks of light again. And this time I was like, they've got to be angels. So I said, if your angels play Paca Belcanon in the next song. Mm-hmm. And so it did. That song came on. Wow. But then I went back to doubting because it's I was more comfortable doubting than I was not doubting.
Right.
So I just said, if you're really angels, play my favorite song on the radio on my way home. So I'm driving home. I realized that the radio's not on. I turned it on. And then in that moment, it's my favorite song, but it's a special live version. Mm-hmm. Mm. Wow. So I just continued doubting in myself. And then the angels gave me more signs, and then doubting, and then believing, the doubting, believing. There weren't a lot of people like me then.
Right.
Right.
So eventually I decided that this is my path to being just a therapist wasn't fulfilling enough. And I wasn't able, it would consider it unethical to use my abilities blatantly during therapy sessions.
Right.
I made it my goal to pursue work as I call now an intuitive coach. And it's something that I never would have thought would ever happen to me. I was supposed to be normal.
And that's what I was going to say. Like hearing you say it and doubting yourself, especially not having others around. Did it make you feel weird but then again, I mean, once we get past a certain age, I don't know, some of those things are not.
But I would think you would still feel somewhat isolated.
Oh, yeah.
It's not like you can just anybody.
Right.
Yeah, no, it's true. And I call it a coming forward process. Mm. It's I had to take that leap of faith, and not even take a leap of faith, just bite my nails and say, I'm psychic, this is what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. And my family at first had a hard time, not everybody in my family, but they were what the heck? You know what I mean?
Right.
A lot of my cousins said, we were concerned about you, but now we understand. Now we understand. And I think that might have been some reactions to a lot of people that were close to me. Right. And then they eventually ended up getting readings from me. And now, they totally accept it. But it is a little bit depending on where I am, doesn't always feel emotionally safe to tell people what I do. But of course I moved to Boulder, Colorado. So, in Boulder, it's a kind of a hub for, right. Spiritual. And even if you don't believe in it, you're not going to be freaked out if someone says that they're a psychic medium.
Right.
I'm sure that far as family, you probably were the weird cousin. Like, she's weird, but then
Yeah. I'm the weird.
yeah,
I'm the woo woo girl. Although
look at the good your kids, and they like, well, that's what the
That's
problem
what it
was.
was.
That's what it was.
yeah,
So,
I mean, yeah, I think everybody has intuitive people in their family, and
Yeah,
people
right.
just don't realize it.
right.
In some of the comments that I've had family members say, I'm thinking, like, when we, many, many moons ago, when we started dating and when I got pregnant, my grandmother started calling him Dada before
Oh,
confirmed that I was pregnant.
I was gonna say I was feeling like your grandmother was psychic, but I didn't say any. I mean, of course, I didn't say anything. That's so cool.
And so that type of thing, like, I think that things like that happen, but we kind of gloss over it because society tells us that only crazy people do that, or religion tells us that it's evil. So, and it's funny because within religion, there are people who prophesy or things like that. So you just call it a different name. But I'm sure it's a freeing feeling to be able to operate within your gift, especially when you are helping others with that gift.
Yes.
It is so wonderful because I feel like I'm living my true purpose in life. I feel like I'm fulfilling my destiny and what I came to this earth to do. And but I also feel like one big message is that everybody's intuitive. I just taught a course the other day, and I'm like, raise your hand if you ever thought of a friend and they called you. Everybody raises their hand. Raise your hand if you ever had a deja vu moment. Raise your hand if you ever thought of a song that came on the radio. Like, those things happen to you, I bet.
Yeah, all the time.
It's happened to everybody.
Right.
And so that just is proof right there that everybody is psychic. Everybody has the ability. And that is the reason why, again, when I decided to teach my course, it's so many people, like, I can see, especially before COVID, I had this vision that a big event was going to happen. And then people were going to suddenly wake up to their spiritual gifts. And that's what's happening. And I didn't know it was COVID that was going to happen, but that's what happened. And I want to help people go, hey, there's nothing wrong with you. Here is how we're going to help you fully access your highest potential. So you don't have to be a psychic reader like me. You don't have to be a medium for a profession, or you could do it for yourself. It's a wonderful feeling to be able to connect to your angels, your spirit guides, your deceased loved ones for yourself, and to know you're not crazy. You know what I mean?
Right.
This is a gift that you came here to experience. And I understand that it can be scary for a lot of people.
So, and I mean, you kind of just spoke on it, but is in terms of you personally, like once you accepted and you started to operate within those gifts, what kind of changes happened with you on a personal level?
Oh, that's such a good question. I ended up healing a lot mental health wise, because that feeling of being a square peg fitting into a round hole, I got it right this time. It's still there. But at that time, I was like, I do not belong, to anybody. And I don't know why. And with, being able to connect to angels, for example, when you're alone and you're depressed, which I often was, really struggled with anxiety and depression, I felt less alone, like, oh, wow, I can connect to this. I can connect to these beings that fully, they love me and I'm receiving comfort. And I don't have to call other people to receive this comfort. I'm getting it directly from a pure source. And so that really helped. I also helped me feel confident. And it felt, I was finally like doing something that I felt like I was good at. And I think, that just helped me. Yeah, again, it helped me, my self-esteem shoot up. It also helped me figure certain things out about myself. Like, this is why when I was a therapist, I didn't feel like I was fully alive, even though, I wanted to help people. This is why I always felt so different. This is why I used to daydream. It's not because I'm dumb. It's because, and intuitives often daydream. So you find children who are intuitive, like in school, they're not paying attention. I used to get in trouble for not following directions. I still get in trouble sometimes for not following directions. But it helped me, when you find what you're good at, it just helps. And I had this idea in school. I bet, a lot of those kids that don't fit the mold, I just wonder if they knew that they were intuitive and that that's a career, you know what I mean? A career option. If a lot of kids, I wonder if they knew that was an option that could give them, self-esteem and help them understand why they don't fit. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. I'm sure adults who need to know that and who need to feel comfortable in their skin and accept those gifts and operate within them.
Exactly. So many adults say that they've had scary experiences, or they say the same thing. I have this, but I don't know what. A lot of adults and children struggle because they're empaths, which is a way of being intuitive. And when you don't know how to, an empath is when you're picking up on information about like how people are feeling usually, and you'll feel heavy if someone's feeling heavy and you don't know why. And really an important part of developing your gift and realizing your gift is also learning that, I need to do these certain techniques. Like I need to ground myself, and that helps decrease anxiety too, feeling in your body. And I need to protect myself from other energies. Not that there's bad, things all over the place, but just other people. Your mom, you love your mom, but she's in a bad mood and suddenly you're in a bad mood.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because you're absorbing her emotions.
And I'm an empath, but I struggled with childhood trauma. I blocked processing emotions for myself for many years. And so for me, I could turn off absorbing others' energy because I was so good at suppressing my own emotion. So do you find that the clients that you work with, that sometimes they have to deal with either childhood trauma or deal with their own mental health issues to be able to fully operate within those gifts?
I feel like so many people have had traumatic childhoods or experiences. And so for some, like one of my clients felt like she was connecting with bad spirits. And I think that was really scary for her, and she just wanted nothing to do with it. I think that the lens of trauma made her feel like her intuition wasn't safe. But oftentimes traumatized people are incredibly intuitive because they need to know when the next dangerous thing was going to happen. And so they like hypervigilant children, they would just, and I'm sure that, you did that too. Like we're just kind of looking to see how, our caregivers are, how they're going to behave, or whoever is in power in our lives. So intuition develops naturally. Then I don't think that you need to deal with your trauma in order to harness it. I don't think you need to be fully healed because we're always healing. But of course, with anybody who has severe trauma, trauma therapies and all those things are very, very important. But I also feel like doing this work doesn't replace therapy or trauma treatment, but being able to recognize your intuition, talk to the angels, get intuitive coaching, that sort of thing. By you stepping into your higher power, that helps you heal your trauma, because trauma is all about feeling a lack of control. It's about feeling like and recovering from someone else doing something to you or an experience that was, really scary. And so when you are able to access your highest potential by accessing your intuitive gifts, your intuition can also be a protective mechanism. Of course it is, to help you feel safe in life. But also, like I said, just feeling like the angels were listening to me, or your spirit guides or deceased loved ones are there to help protect you. I feel like that can bring a lot of healing to a traumatized person.
Right.
The biggest thing is for people to recognize it's very scary diving into the unknown. And especially if you have religious trauma, you're brought up to believe only religious clergy can connect to Jesus or whatever higher power, to God, or like you said, there are prophets, only prophets are allowed to be psychic. But if you come from that orientation, then that's scary. So it's just about having a guide in terms of like how to make sense of it, how to make it, if you are having scary experiences, you can set an intention for it to be only positive. Like that's what happened to me. As soon as I told my teacher about my scary experiences, she just said, well, just set the intention for you not to have it. And then I connected to my angels and it was positive. And of course that's different for everybody, depending on the type of trauma, experience, you know what I mean? You have to feel safe. But I also feel like in a lot of trauma therapy, it's really important to help the client feel resourced. And so, for example, in EMDR, it's a very effective treatment for trauma. I highly recommend it. They'll help you feel resourced, which is just basically helping you feel safe and grounded before you're about to delve in and tap into some traumatic memories. So you go into like this safe and happy place, and with the work that I've been doing, I noticed like it can be the same thing where we go on these guided journeys into the angelic realm or the realm where all, the loving spirits are, and create our own safe and happy place so that my clients feel resourced. They feel safe. They see that it's safe, and then they're able to go deeper.
Right.
But it's always about having that sacred and safe container to learn this stuff.
Right. So for our listeners who may not know, what is EMDR?
It's okay. Let me see if I remember it right. It's eye movement, rapid desensitization.
I know exactly what it is.
It's basically, I should really know that. But what happens is like, they discovered, the woman who created it, I don't remember her name, discovered that you can heal trauma, not necessarily by talking about everything, but by using your brain and by making bilateral movements. So looking here, looking there, looking here, that and there, you can go into your subconscious mind and share. They would process one memory at a time. So you don't have to go in and tell your whole traumatic story and all the things that happened to you, because that's very, very traumatic in itself. You get grounded and resourced, and then you do this movement, and then somehow the brain heals while you're talking, and the therapist guides you, and so it can help clear out a specific memory, and then you go on to another one and another one. But correct me if I'm wrong.
That's the gist of my knowledge of it. One thing that you said, I don't want to forget it, but you mentioned children who are in abusive or, chaotic environments, learning how to, I learned very early how to read a room. And you made reference to that as being intuitive and connected to that intuition. And so I think that it's important to point out that some of those things that we looked at, even though they were developed in a place of harm or in an unhealthy situation, and how those things can be used in a positive way. I can read a room, I feel energy, but I guess I never thought of, I'm not used to thinking of that as a positive thing because of of that ability.
Why you learned it.
Right. And I think that ties into the shame and all of those things. There's so many reasons why people kind of shy away from psychic abilities and things, and that's one of them. You don't see those things for what they are unless somebody points it out for you.
Yeah, and I think one thing to remember is that it's yours. You have control over how you show up in the world. And if you want to keep it to yourself until you feel safe enough to share with like one person, then that's okay. You can also find communities online, on Facebook. But yeah, I mean, especially if, for example, if you're traumatized because you do something and that thing is different, that's one. A lot of people are just afraid of being different and whether they've endured trauma or not. Yeah. For some reason, our society has programmed it into our egos since we're little, is that you must be like everybody else. And then we have, dominant white culture share, this is how you're supposed to be to, in our country. And with science, which I 100% believe in science, but, we value the rational thought. We value what's real here and now that we can touch and prove.
Right.
And understanding that not everything can be proven. Really understanding that you're not alone and you're not weird. Yes. And I feel like, I wish I could just, for the people who, I can't tell you just to stop. If you were raised to think that you're going to go to hell, you know what I mean? Because you're because you're tapping into something that are angels, but it could be the devil, you know what I mean?
Right.
According to your religious beliefs.
Right.
Please know that you're safe and you're not alone. And I know that you have to wrestle with those paradigms.
Right.
Yes.
But understanding that there are more and more of us coming forward. I don't want to, go after the term coming out, but coming forward.
Yeah.
Right.
We're coming forward. And so there are a lot of people who have those types of fears out there. And it's just about finding community and a safe person to talk to.
Since we have been meeting new people from these different spaces to interview for the podcast, several of the individuals who we've spoken to who are outside the realm of normality, they talk about this peace and this happiness with fulfilling their purpose and operating in those gifts. So just the idea of, okay, even though society is telling us this, even though tradition is telling us this, just imagine how good it would feel to break away from those things and do what it is that your spirit is telling you needs to be done.
Exactly.
I might have said that for me.
That was a beautiful way of saying it.
That for me.
No, that's so true. It's almost like, even if that thing is frowned upon by, I'm not going to go to, Texas, whatever, I'll just use Texas as an example. Right. I might be afraid in Texas to be like, this is who I am. Right. I might choose not to share.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
With anybody.
We're in the Bible Belt.
In the Bible Belt, I would definitely keep my mouth shut.
Right.
I would personally be too scared. And there's a reason for it sometimes. But but knowing that I'm on purpose, knowing that there is community for me elsewhere, and there are safer places for me elsewhere, which is a privilege,
right,
is what keeps me going.
Well, that's with the podcast, like the first year, it was us, and we talked about our journey, and that's frowned upon a lot. You keep your business to yourself. You don't tell people, and there were some details that we shared about our relationship and some rocky points in our relationship, and people, you don't tell, so, and like I said, once you break away from all those things and start to do what it is that you are telling you feels good.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a good feeling, and we're enjoying it and hoping that as we meet individuals like you and learn, things that we're being exposed to new things. And so we're just enjoying the personal growth and sharing that with our listeners. And so we appreciate you sharing your time.
Yes, definitely.
Well, all of us who get to be on your podcast are so lucky.
Thank you. Thank you. We are still blown away by, I put things out there to try and get guests. I told him, I said, let's branch out. Let's bring people in so that, we work on the individual to be a better partner. Yeah. And so as we're getting people, as we're meeting you all, I'm like, they're really going to record with us. Yeah. Okay. It's just us. But okay. So
you guys have a beautiful, sweet, rare energy,
I'm rarely called that, but okay.
The one thing that, some of the politicians and the political analysts keep speaking of woke culture.
Yeah.
It's like, well, during the pandemic, a lot of people woke up.
It is true.
They've been outside of the norm,
right?
As far as their teachings, their work styles, and things like that. So people have broken away from the norm, and it's like, no. We need to put everybody back to sleep. So we're gonna get rid of information, and we're gonna block these things. And once you wake up, it's hard to go back to.
Yeah.
It's like it's not gonna happen.
Especially when you find and learn things that it feels good to learn.
Yes, it feels free.
And it helps, right. It helps, you don't have to hide things. Like I'm I'm sure for you, once you realized, okay, this is it, and you made the decision that you're gonna, operate within that gift, that's like weight lifted.
It is. It is also hard sometimes.
Yes, it is.
Sometimes, I feel like a lone wolf, and that's hard, but the benefits outweigh that.
Right.
But sometimes, being different and doing something different and going away from the norms, it's just like, sometimes it's just, why couldn't I just be a therapist and have a, do the thing where you have the kids and you get married and you have the car and the driveway and the house, why, you know what I mean? Like, I've definitely been upset about that sometimes.
Why can't I just be normal? But
because
there's no such thing as normal. Right. It's just, you're normal.
Yeah. But you're right. Like, people are waking up, and it's shaking up the world. It's shaking things up, but we aren't learning or hearing about a lot of the positives, of the positives of waking up. We're hearing about the people who are asleep.
Right.
Yep.
All the people who are asleep are the ones that are making the news.
Right.
Yep.
That's what's been refreshing about this.
Yes.
Is because we're not, like I said, we're meeting people who are, giving us this information and exposing us to these new things and new way of thinking and seeing things. And that has been refreshing.
Yes, it has.
Yeah. And I feel really grateful to be a part of that.
Thank you. Now, what I want to know is...
Oh, God.
Uh-oh.
I'm sorry. I don't know.
I'm going to hold my breath.
As far as your gifts, and I bet you couldn't no person that you were in a relationship with
oh gosh
get anything past you. I bet you just like, okay, all right. But how was dating for you? Like, was it a struggle? Was it, how was that for you?
I would say, is that?
I'm sorry.
Unfortunately, I'm still in the dating. It's hard. I do wonder sometimes when I date, usually people are not looking for, I guess it doesn't matter what people are looking for, but when I feel insecure, and the thought that comes to my mind is when people are dating, especially I'm 44. And so people, at this point of life, you're settled. And what my insecurities tell me is that nobody's thinking about wanting to date someone who, who's a self-employed psychic medium / angel channel. I don't think, and so I sometimes when I'm insecure, I do care about what people think. Right. And, on a date, I may worry a little bit about what they think about me. And it makes me feel a little insecure that I'm not a lawyer or a doctor or something like that. And I do, when I feel close to someone, it is true that I pick up on psychic information about them, whereas opposed to people who I don't feel close to, I can turn it on and off. Right. I definitely feel more of the empathic vibe. So even as just like my regular family members, I'll ask, for example, my brother, I'll be like, did you do this? And he didn't do the thing. And I already know, I'm like, why do I bother asking? I know the answers to this question. So I don't try, when it goes, going back to dating, it's like, when I don't try to read people, and some dates have actually asked me to give them readings on the spot, and I don't like that.
Right.
I'm like, no, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Schedule an appointment with me.
Right. Like, I can see how that would be an immediate, no thank you. That almost feels like mocking or poking fun of.
Yeah, or just feeling disrespected a little bit. But so I also feel like I have to tell people that I'm not reading them. Because it's like when you're on a date and it's the first person, I don't want that person to think that I'm like looking into their entire life and invading their privacy. So I do feel like sometimes I need to say that.
Mm-hmm. So you don't get the stare, like when you're staring into his eyes, and that like, are you reading?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
It is hard. It is hard when you feel that closeness with someone to not be flooded sometimes with just random bits of information that are, you know, sweet, or like getting a sense of who that person is in a deep way, you know.
And I'm sure, especially if it's not good stuff, it would almost make it easier. But if it's not good stuff, then no thank you.
Well, it's interesting.
Go ahead.
Because, like, you know, you said that, like, we just assume because of, you know, television, we see things on movies, like stuff just appears out of nowhere to people, and they have these visions, and all of a sudden, it's right intact. But when you say you can control the energy, you control it. Now that makes it more understanding, you know what I'm saying?
And that's how it helps people feel more calm. Like when I teach, it's like, I will teach you how to control it.
Right.
But yes, when you're really close with someone, it's different. The boundaries are different. But, you know, when it comes to dating, another thing that makes it hard is that I'll only see someone's positive side, because I don't choose to see any negativity. I block.
Okay.
So I'm not going to see all their stuff, and I've been very unpleasantly surprised, unfortunately. On my bad.
Oh my goodness.
So, you know.
And now we need to be on another mission.
Yeah.
We've got to find Sarah someone.
We had actually met a young lady, and she has these rules for dating. So we may have to contact her and see that list from her and get it to you. So.
Oh yeah, that would be very helpful. I'll take all the help I can get.
Look, I was thinking more hands-on. No, I mean, like, let's go through a catalog of.
I mean,
I'll do. Like I said, I'll take all the help I can get.
We have family members and friends who are great women, and I wish I could hook them up, but some of these jokers, I'd be like, I can't introduce you to nobody.
It's hard. I mean, I think it's hard. Actually, I totally hear what you're saying, and I think that when also you're on a spiritual journey and you're walking through life on a deeper level,
right?
You start to feel like it's harder to relate to people who aren't walking that path,
right?
And then that narrows down the dating pool.
Right.
For us women, it's not as easy.
Right.
The dating pool's not that big to begin with of decent people, it feels like. However,
I know that I'm having conversations with single and I'm sitting up there like, man, you actually thought that made sense.
Look, he told me probably about a year ago, we were, I don't know, on Facebook or something, and it said something like, somebody said, would you, if something were to happen to your marriage, would you get married again? And people were like, no, I can't, I'm not dealing with people and blah, blah, blah. And I asked him, and he said, I don't want to have to date anybody else. You have to learn about people, and you see how people are. And my feelings were hurt because I felt like he should have said, no, I don't want to date anyone else because I have you.
Because you're a goddess.
Right. I love you. And so my feelings were hurt. And then about a year later, in fact, it wasn't too long ago, I was like, you know what? I get it. You're right, because the dating pool is very shallow.
That's self-explanatory, but just thinking about getting back out there, it's like, man, like when they had a list of places not to go on a date, and I'm sure it was mocked up, but they were like, can't go to Chili's, can't go to Cheesecake.
No ice cream date.
No ice cream date.
What? Are you serious?
We did in our day. Come on,
you're meeting people. What do you expect?
Walks in the park are wrong.
Well, I just like to tell myself that when the timing is right, it's all about there. I do believe if you want love, there's somebody for everybody. And there's somebody out there for me, or even more than one somebody's. I think we all have more than one person out there, but it's about a lot of things. It's about divine timing, being at the right time for yourself and your soul in order for something to work out, and just being open to receiving love.
Right.
And being open to healing yourself so that you receive the type of love that you really want. And you two met each other and you have a very long marriage, and very happy. You two look very happy together. And so you have a secret that you could share.
Your person is out there and you see him all the time. You just hadn't, your frequencies haven't adjusted to each other yet. But it's coming.
That's what I believe.
Look at your friends.
Yeah.
That's our secret.
Yeah, that's our secret.
We were friends, and it was a very platonic. In fact, when we were teenagers, we tried to date, and then he messed it up.
I was trying to be a player, so to speak.
Yeah, he messed it up.
And I did the dumbest stuff.
Just dumb.
I want to hear the stories.
So one of them, and you know what, our parents probably would have had a fit if they knew we were doing this. We switched cars.
Yep.
And so I'm driving his car and I pulled the sun visor down and a picture falls to my lap. And it was a picture of another girl. And just so happened, I went to school with the girl. We didn't go to the same school. I went to school with the girl, and I didn't like the girl. He told me one day we met up, and he's like, "Look, if anybody tells you they saw me in the mall with a girl, it was my niece."
Dumb.
You just pre-tell on yourself.
Oh my God, that's really funny. You were kids.
Not in him. Right. We were kids. That's not in him. And the way that we met was I actually liked his friend.
Yeah.
And so I had the biggest crush on his friend. And the first time we met, his friend came over to my house with him, and I don't even remember meeting him. I didn't
see me
because I liked his friend.
And then she came over to my house with another friend.
Yeah, I ended up dating another friend of his.
That's when we formally met each other.
Yeah.
And then that didn't work out.
No.
And then we ended up running to each other, the local teen hangout. And it's like, hey, I know you. And
he sang and he did stuff. We were at one of the Army base here. The little youth club would have dances or parties, and we were there. And so we're standing outside when it's over, and he's hugging me and he's singing in my ear. I thought it was in my ear. And I happened to turn, and there's a girl that he's looking at while he's singing. It's a wonder that I even gave you a chance after all that.
I was young and stupid.
He wasn't ready.
I don't think I was trying to be a player. I was just trying to do what my friend.
You were right. You were trying.
Yeah, exactly.
It wasn't naturally me.
It wasn't. Not at all. Not at all.
I know.
Yeah. Oh, look at you now.
But we then he started dating a girl about 2 years. And that was not good. Yeah. And the more that we talk about it now, I'm like, you do realize that she was abusive towards you. Like she was horrible.
Or mentally abusive, definitely.
But we remained friends. And so I went off to school and I would come home and I'd call him and say, I'm home. Do you want to hang out? And we'd hang out and whatnot. And I thought, because she and I had met, he had introduced us as I'm his friend. And I thought she was aware of me coming home and me and him would hang out because we were friends. And I found out the hard way that that's not the case.
You don't do that. You don't do that. That crazy thing.
Yeah, she was.
Yeah.
But
her.
After they broke up, I ended up moving home and we got together. We were inseparable after that.
Started hanging out.
Yeah.
That is so sweet.
Yeah. And now from the time that we were friends, though, my mom would call him son. That's her son.
Aww.
Throughout the years, she would get on to me about corrupting her son. When I got pregnant, when I told her I was pregnant, she stopped speaking to me. She spoke to him, but
wow.
I had further corrupted her son. And I'm like, I didn't do that by myself. I don't know why you're upset with me and not him. But for the first month or so after I told her, she had a legitimate attitude with me. I'm older than you were when you had me, though. Didn't make any difference. I had corrupted her son. But we made it, and I think one of the things that one of the reasons that we are as close as we are is because we're friends. Yeah. When we say we're best friends, like we mean it. Like we're friends. We hang out. We have some of the same interests, and even the things that we don't share interest in, we have a mutual respect for each other, and we just want to spend time together. So if that means that we stop by the yarn store for me and the hardware store for him, then we do that because we spend time doing it. So
yeah, that's really, really inspiring.
Thank you.
Yes, and we definitely believe in like over love.
Yeah.
Love is fantastic. Love is great. But you have some family members you love, but you don't actually like to be around them all the time.
Right.
You have to like the person you're in a relationship with in order to, take their BS or if they're,
right. That's so true.
It's like, I can't stand you, but I like you.
That's really true. I'm learning so much from you.
Well, thank you.
Teach each other. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
So, Miss Sarah, we would like to thank you for joining us on this evening, sharing with us your gift and your knowledge and your wisdom. For those of our listeners who would like to contact you, get some information from you, how can you be reached?
Well, you can go to my website, which I hope you guys will post because it's hard to spell my last name. Okay, you're going to post it.
Yes.
Please feel free to email me. You can call me. My information's on my website. And I also have a Facebook group called Intuitive Connections by Sarah Itkin. And I post a lot of free content there. I also have Instagram, which I need to work on. It's not very developed, but it's Sarah Itkin Intuitive. And if you want to learn more about my programs, what I have to offer, I do give readings, like psychic readings. And then I also have my intuitive development course, which is coming up May 7th. It's going to be every Tuesday at 5:30 Mountain Time. So that's 7:30 Eastern Standard Time for 10 weeks, or Eastern Daylight Time. And I also work with people individually with my packages doing intuitive coaching and also professional training. So all of that is on my website. You can email me if you would like a reading and you mention this podcast and get $25 off an hour reading.
Right.
We've got spots.
Right. That's the first time we do that.
Discount.
Oh, really? Well, normally people have coupon codes, but I'm not that fancy yet.
You see how excited we got. So once again, thank you so much for joining us. We do appreciate you taking the time to speak with us. We appreciate you sharing your knowledge and your gift with us.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Beyond I Do podcast.
Please make sure to like this episode and also subscribe to our podcast. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at the Beyond I Do podcast.
And until next time, We will holler at y'all.